Welcome to Doc's Lab and our second Master Series. Welcome to Friday night's video and our second Master Series. I do believe this is the 93rd video in our second Master Series, the 42nd video on basic processors, the 5th video on sculpting processors, and in this video we want to talk about situations. So this is a pretty simple concept, and I'm going to make this video pretty short. I just want you to think about this, do some research, do some experimenting, and work on honing your abilities at focusing on these situations and dealing with them properly. The first situation is you taking the role of an acoustician. So when you take the role of an acoustician, like we talked about in our reverb convolution segment, that basically, in any type of environment, there is going to be inherently different types of noise, saturation, distortions, levels of them, that the environment is going to dictate how much and what types and at what levels get on the capture, which gives you a lot of control of being able to sculpt the environment or help the capture sound like it was in some certain type of environment. So it's something you really need to take into consideration and do some research on. So that's the first situation that I want you to really take into consideration and think about. The next situation is you have different situations, like you're working on a mix, that you're trying to add these things into a mix and take that into consideration. You're working on individual tracks, and or you're working on individual different instruments that are different situations. There is obviously going to be differences in different vocalists, in different types of instruments, and even with a different type of instrument. Let's say having an acoustic guitar. Not all acoustic guitars sound the same. They have different inherent noise content, saturation content, harmonic content, distortion content that you can adjust with the tools we'll be talking about, and those are different situations. So it's something you really have to take into consideration, do some analysis, do some research, and really think about it, because it's going to really be important for you in becoming that next level master audio engineer. And working in different types of situations, of whether you're working on a whole mix or the situation of a subgroup or a situation of a single track, are all different situations, and how things are going to work together to enhance the situation that you're trying to get done. Does that make sense? So it's kind of complicated, so it's something you really need to think about. Not only that, as you have another situation where things are going to be hyper clean, or you want them somewhere in the middle, or you want them really dirty, or you want them to sound retro, or you want them to sound 90s or 80s or whatever, that those are other types of situations that all these tools can help you in. So it's another thing you need to take into consideration. And besides that, you have different types of genres. So whether or not you're working on a movie score, you're working in the gaming industry, you're working on a commercial, you're working on an R&B record, or you're working on a pop record or a rock record, or whatever you might be working on, those are all also very different situations that all these things that we're talking about in these sculpting processors can affect. And those situations all have things inherently in them that you're going to want to think about, so that you can think of these tools as possibilities to help those situations, which is a lot, and it's a lot for you to think about, but you becoming that next level master audio engineer, you really need to take those things into consideration. And you know, even in those situations, let's say a real simple example is I've got this vocalist and she sounds great. She is an awesome vocalist, but you know, she just doesn't really work really well in this jazz cafe production I'm doing. She sounds much better suited to this pop production and this hyper clean pop kind of thing. So I have to really work on her sound to get her sounding more smoky and jazzy, so she fits more in this production, you know, and so that capture works better in this situation. So or I'm working on a rock vocalist that he's grungy and growly, but I really need to try to help him with these tools to make him sound cleaner with different types of saturation, noises, and distortion that actually has a reverse effect of making him sound smoother, cleaner, and more hyper clean, so that he sounds better in this production, and that's a whole nother situation. So all these situations, and there's many, so I can go on and on and on with different situations, and we could talk for hours and hours and hours about how to address those different situations. But in the end, it's going to be your opinion and how to utilize these things and how much research you've done about those situations themselves, and what of these things we're talking about are inherent in those situations, or what you might want to apply of the things we're talking about to make those situations better, the way you see things or the way you think it's going to sound better, is going to be very much a study, an experimentation, and a practice that you're going to have to undertake so that you can hone your abilities in all those situations that you might be coming into contact with, and to really take it into consideration that each one of those situations can be very different, but these tools can very much help you in all those situations to make your production that next level. Does that make sense? To make you that next level master audio engineer, to where sometimes it might be out of the drop of a hat. It's like, well, I haven't used this in a long time, but in this situation, it might really help me. Or you might use it a lot because of the varied work that you do, or whatever that you might be coming into, or, you know, it might be happening in the type of production realm that you're in, or the productions you're working in. So I really hope you take that into consideration. You really think about that, do some study, do some research, do some experimentation, and you hone your abilities at utilizing it in different situations, have thought about it thoroughly, and honing your opinion at how to do the things we're going to be talking about in those different situations, so it's done the way you want it to do, and making things better the way you see things in the type of situations you're in. So peace, self-love. I certainly hope that you take those things into consideration to help improve your situations, and I will see you in the next video.